Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here from TrevorTrove.com for another weekly episode of Movie Mondays. I just got back from spending a week in San Francisco for Kinda Funny Live 3, kind of cosplaying as Aquaman throughout, if you've seen any of my Twitter pictures over the last week or so. And I figure that's as good a time as any to talk about Wonder Woman, which I had the fortunate pleasure to see last night with a couple hundred Kinda Funny best friends. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I think there are some flaws in the movie, but overall, the good outweighed the bad. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future of the DCEU. Let this be your spoiler warning. From here on out, I'll be covering some details from the movie, so if that bothers you, go check out the movie, then come on back and check out this video. I think, as was the general consensus from Batman v Superman, Gal Gadot does a pretty good job as Diana, as Wonder Woman. There's definitely some fish-out-of-water stuff at play here, but it's played with naivete and never stupidity or dumbness. She comes across strong, smart, courageous, and very skilled in battle throughout the movie, so I found her a very compelling character in the film. Additionally, you have Chris Pine's Captain Steve Trevor as another standout, and not just because his last name is Trevor, although that's really cool. Pine does a really good job showing the audience just how damaged and affected he's been from the war and some of the brutal things he's done throughout the war, most likely, as a spy. And we get a real sense of him trying to redeem himself throughout this movie. He's also got a lot of the good comedic moments throughout the film, things like confusingly trying to fight against the lasso of truth when he's faced with that obstacle, as well as a lot of the romantic humor that he gets to play up with Diana. I think in the overall story of the film, you have a second act that kind of outshines the first and third acts. Specifically, Diana's trek across no man's land in order to save a village under siege really comes across as kind of a defining hero moment for her. You get to see her finally kind of revealed in her full Wonder Woman regalia, and it shows just how formidable an opponent she is. We really get to see what she's capable of in this fight, as well as the fact that her compassion for others is going to be kind of one of her biggest strengths. The first act I thought took a little too long to get going. There's a lot of exposition there to establish the backstory of the Amazons and their role and the gods. Too much of it is delivered in one of my cinematic pet peeves of telling, not showing. Rather than give us a dramatic, epic battle between the Amazons and the gods and mankind in the past, the whole story and their history is told through a series of slightly moving paintings. Admittedly, those portraits look pretty cool from an animation standpoint, but from a narrative and dramatic standpoint, they ultimately end up looking little more than a digital pop-up book. I also found myself frustrated by the fact that the inciting incident of the film is little more than Captain Trevor's stumbling upon Themyscira and crash landing onto their shores. The Amazons are so isolated that they're completely oblivious to the world outside themselves to know that Ares has been wreaking havoc for 4 years of the Great War. And Ares, sensing that they're not really after him, hasn't really thought to seek out them. So if you don't have that plane crash, Ares would just go on to keep destroying the world, and the Amazons would just live in their ignorant bliss. I don't have a fix or a solution for that, but I would have rather seen something more active from Diana as opposed to her reacting to this crash and just the discovery that the world outside her is in turmoil. The third act, on the other hand, ends up feeling all too similar to the norm superhero third acts. You have a digital effects driven fight at night with lots of stuff flying through the air, and clearly it was basically just an actor on a green screen. The villain doesn't reveal himself until the end, so you basically only get a monologue and then a fight with the two rather than some kind of big built-up feud. I also had some problems with how they revealed David Thewlis as Ares. I thought the film was giving us so many red herrings to say, hey, look at Danny Huston's Ludendorff. He's clearly Ares, so don't look anywhere else, that the end reveal that David Thewlis' character, the more mild-mannered Sir Patrick, was actually Ares, just kind of fell flat because I was like, yeah, I saw that coming, like a long time ago. I recognize that that is me, and I definitely had some friends in the audience who, when that turn hit, they were shocked and amazed by it, but for me, I thought, as a student of theater and dramatic arc, I thought there were enough kind of hints pointing to say, hey, no, it's really going to be that guy, that I just saw the twist coming and it didn't have as much impact for me. We also end the film with a subplot that features Captain Trevor sacrificing himself for the greater good and to save lives by flying the plane with the dangerous gas off into the air and exploding it in the sky. And I appreciate that he's making kind of the hero's sacrifice, and it makes sense that you don't really need to keep him around as a love interest because we clearly already know Diana is existing in the modern era, and he wouldn't as a mortal. So at least you get to use his sacrifice to kind of trigger Diana's transformation into the god that she is. But I took issue with the fact that even that hinged on him telling her something while she can't hear him because there was an explosion and her ears are ringing, but then suddenly in the heat of battle she recalls what he said, magically being able to turn off that ringing so you can hear what he said in his final moments. And she uses that to unlock her full potential and defeat Ares. I thought it was a little contrived, but nowhere near the Martha moment of Batman v Superman. Ultimately, though, I think the movie does a really good job establishing this character. We don't get to see the turn of events that leads from where she kind of ends this movie as fighting for mankind to having abandoned mankind and given up on them at the beginning of Batman v Superman, but I imagine there's room to explore that perhaps in a World War II era sequel. Now, of course, the movie will endlessly be compared to Captain America. They both share kind of a historical tie-in or origin story, and you also have similar narrative beats throughout. You have the climactic sacrificing airplane moment that I alluded to earlier, and you even have Diana with her own version of the Howling Commandos throughout this film. And I would even venture to say that those two films are probably on pretty equal footing if considered in a vacuum. But I think they'll be remembered very differently based on what's around them. I think with Captain America, because you have Iron Man as such a standout, and then the Avengers that comes afterwards as such a standout, we now remember Captain America as kind of more of a meh movie. Whereas here, Wonder Woman is coming off of the heels of a largely disappointing Suicide Squad and Batman v Superman. So I think even a good movie here gets elevated to something more amazing in comparison to the company it is surrounded with. If Batman v Superman had been this incredible feature, I think Wonder Woman would have kind of come off looking a little underwhelming as a result. But it didn't. Critical buzz has been good, audiences seem to show up this weekend, and everybody seems to be enjoying it. I'm super glad to see such a strong female character out there. I'm super glad to see, for all of the strong female figures in my life, be it friends or people I look up to, I'm so glad to see that they have somebody out there that they can look up to now on the big screen. And for the first time in a long time, I'm excited to see where we go with Justice League and the future of the DCEU. So those are my thoughts on Wonder Woman. Let me know what you thought about the movie in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey. You can follow me at Snarky Starkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends. As much as I love that theme, it is terribly out of place in a World War I era film, at least in that incarnation. I was talking to some friends about it last night, and I wish they'd done something more period appropriate, even if it was just like drums on the battlefield, and kind of a strictly percussive instrumental version of it. But instead you still have the metal guitar coming in, and it's like, nope, that wouldn't have been around here 100 years ago. But damn if it ain't catchy.